It's the golden age of WWE. Larger than life of fantasy. Step in the ring, feel history. Welcome to the golden WWE.
Woo, Mooney, how you doing today?
Well, doing well. I'm doing great. Just thinking back to Hawk and what a rush. He was
what a catchphrase.
So awesome. Of course, that would ruin your throat and you wouldn't be able to talk for a few weeks after if you were anybody else. But Hawk certainly pulled it off. And what a tag team the Road Warriors were.
I know.
Is that what we're going to talk about today, by the way, Steve?
The Road Warriors or
possibly.
Legion of Doom?
Well, depends what you remember. What's their beginnings as the Road Warriors, and also the tie that Legion of Doom was even part of the Road Warriors then for our historians. But of course, you're referring when you say Legion of Doom, we're talking about the WWE.
I know, but it is so strange to think that there's a group of fans that only know, I guess not strange, it's just, that's what happens when you only see the WWE programming is some people only know Hawk and Animal as Legion of Doom. And then when suddenly you would hear on the commentary, there's Road Warrior Hawk, there's Road Warrior Animal, thinking to myself, are there names Road Warrior Animal and Road Warrior Hawk? Or are they Hawk and Animal? Like, what are they? Like, you're confusing your audience slightly a little bit, but yes, they were the Road Warriors. And they came to the WWF as Legion of Doom. Now, I'm guessing it's a Mad Max situation here where from the movie, you can't be using IP like that in your company while selling shirts that say Road Warriors. Do you think that's right?
Yeah, and it's apropos that you said the Mad Max because, as Animal would tell you, that was kind of the beginnings of their character. They based it on that look and those characters. And I think, of course, yes, if you're someone who has been a WWE fan your whole life, then you know them as a Legion of Doom. But as far as in their souls that never left them, they were always the Road Warriors. And it's also debatable when you talk about that run they had with the WWE. Weren't their greatest years. And as you look back and people would say, talking about the greatest tag teams in the history of professional wrestling, they will certainly mention Legion of Doom, but there's always that Road Warriors. That is just a part of their history that will be attached to them forever. So yeah, probably because I worked with them as Legion of Doom, but I also knew of their reputations well before they arrived with us, and was just in awe of them, just thought that they were the greatest tag team ever and could not wait till we could find some way to get them up working with us.
And it's quite interesting to see the pathway of certain talent like Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, Legion of Doom, Texas Tornado, people who were very famous somewhere else coming into the company with already a reputation, with already a built-in audience. And even if you didn't know who the Legion of Doom was when they came into the WWF, they have face paint. And at that time, Warrior has face paint. So he's cool, so they must be cool. And then they have the football shoulder pads with giant spikes sticking out of them. Any little boy, any grown man is looking at this
not to like?
I'm in. Like,
yeah, I'm in.
What is going on here? I will watch it till the end of time. And I think that's got to be like, if you don't know who they were before, them just coming in like that, you're hooked. You're already hooked into what they're putting out there, the presentation alone. So you're working for the company. Are you aware of the rumors of them leaving other companies to come to the WWF at the time?
Yeah, but Steve, you heard this stuff all the time, as we had with our discussion about Ric Flair coming to the WWE. You always heard about that there was some rumblings, or there were, difficulties in negotiations between the talent down there, and that where else are they going to go? They're not going to go necessarily work the independent circuit. That was certainly out there, but you wanted to go to the big show. There was no question about that. And so, yeah, you heard that all the time. And as we talked before, and people, it's really amazing to me, going out and people mentioning, a lot of people saw the episode we had talking about Ric Flair and his arrival into the WWE. And there's a great debate in Rick even saying, I don't think anybody really knew who I was, who was, in the base of the WWE. In this situation, I really believe everybody, as far as if you were a wrestling fan, had heard of the Road Warriors because of their massive strength and some of the things that would make the news just for what they did at certain events. And so in this case, I really believe that, and also we really need to get into the fact that this was the era of tag teams.
Oh, yeah.
Just go on. I made up a list of how many tag teams were out there. Certainly a number of them with the WWE, but of course some very well-known ones down south. And so that was, a big part of it. And there were a lot of tag team fans. And I think that if you had knowledge about what was going on with tag teams, you had to think, if I'm thinking who the best in the world is, it's got to be, you might think it's Legion of Doom because that was with the WWE, but you cannot leave out of that conversation right at the top of those guys out there, those massive lunatics who go in the ring and destroy people, the Road Warriors. And we also know that Vince, had wanted to get the Road Warriors into the WWE at the time, but of course there's always business at hand and it wasn't happening. And that Demolition was forged with the idea of creating a tag team that was on that same level, Axe and Smash of Demolition. They had their own face paint. They had lots of leather. They had, their own mean, absolutely terrifying looks when they came into the ring. So right at the top there, and we will get into talk a little bit more about some of the other tag teams because it certainly made it an exciting period because you had so much competition to set into the ring with these guys. But absolutely at the top, if you're talking tag teams, that were making giant waves in professional wrestling, it was the Road Warriors and the idea of possibly getting them into the WWE and facing Demolition, which, as many people thought, they were a carbon copy that they were trying to recreate them, and there was some resentment for that too, that these guys were imposters. So to see them actually get them in the ring, that was something everybody wanted to see.
I'm so happy you brought up a million awesome points. One I want to just say you even brought up earlier was originally Legion of Doom before Road Warriors. That was like their faction. And it's hilarious to think it's King Kong Bundy with hair and Jake the Snake Roberts in baggy like karate pants.
Yeah.
That's the original Legion of Doom.
Right.
Not in the WWE, somewhere else.
Yeah. But they did bring it into that fold with the Road Warriors with Paul Ellering. And they called that faction
The Legion of Doom.
The Legion of Doom, because Ellering could also go at the time. So when he was always a threat as part of not just being a manager or whatever. So that was part of it. And I was kind of surprised that they were able to use it, that it wasn't somehow protected, that they wouldn't be able to use that in the WWE, but obviously they found a way around it.
Well, that's what it's interesting too, because if I remember, the Legion of Doom is actually a group of supervillains who fight the Super Friends in the Superman television show. So that's what's interesting. It's like you're using not just Road Warriors. On top of that, you're using Legion of Doom, not one IP, you're using two IPs, which to me is like, I don't know how you're doing this, but maybe you're paying someone, just like Hulk Hogan originally was paying, Marvel because Hulk, the Incredible Hulk. So maybe that's where that lays. I don't know, but you also brought up tag teams.
Yes.
And tag teams in the WWF, go back to even 85. You had everyone from the Killer Bees, the Fabulous Rougeaus, the Hart Foundation, the British Bulldogs, the Young Stallions. And these are people who in the beginning weren't even involved with Legion of Doom until they came in. Legion of Doom's got people like Money Inc. You have Natural Disasters, Power and Glory, Rockers,
Twin Towers,
Demolition.
Yeah. It
It's
really
endless.
was the era of the tag team. Now we certainly had great singles competition. Those are other episodes. But the tag teams were as big a part of the card, and you would often see them. They'd be a number 2 match on a card. Many places they were headliners. They were the main event, and we saw even WrestleMania's had tag teams that were in the main event. So it was really a part of the history, and for whatever reason, why they were so popular. And the fact that they were is why we had so many tag teams. It isn't, Vince wasn't a guy who was going to shove stuff down people's throat and say, you're going to see it. It was always kind of reactionary. Hey, that worked. Oh, they're loving this tag team couple. Let's get some more. Let's team these 2 guys up. So that was, the way that all came about. And there were some really, really good tag teams that were in the WWE at the time that worked very well together. Others that didn't. I'm not taking anything away from the Young Stallions or anything like that, but they're the ones that really did work together. Like the Hart Foundation, they didn't really know what to do with Bret Hart when he came in. I
was
remember
he a cowboy?
There was going to be a cowboy. They're going to have him on a horse. And they knew that he was a great talent. Bret came there very well schooled, and he was a tactician when he got there. But it's, to try and get somebody over, they didn't know what to do with The Rock when he got there either. It took a while. But what did it for Bret is when they teamed him up with Jim Neidhart, and they became the Hart Foundation. And everybody, remembers what a great tag team they were. Also, you had, the size of the superstar was a huge thing, pun intended here, and so you had these massive tag teams. You would see down south, and you had like the Freebirds and the Fantastics and all these guys that, quick running around. No, the Road Warriors were, and I credit them for making this happen very much. That you had these monsters in the ring. It was perfect for Vince McMahon because he loved that. He loved the guys with the great bodies, and it wasn't just that they weighed 300 pounds. It was that they were cut. They were freaking massive. Look at, we'll talk maybe more about what the Road Warriors did before they got to the WWE, but where they really honed their skills was in Japan. And these 2 guys, not only were they massive, not only were they incredibly strong, but they could move. I mean, the stuff that they did, and they did that. They spent 5 years in Japan, where it's pretty much a shoot when you go into that ring over there. They don't like to sell anything, and that's where they really honed their skills and that ferocity in the ring, that they scared the living crap out of anybody that would step into the ring. And they had a lot of small cars over there. They would pull stunts where they just pick cars up and move them across the street. So they just had it all. And they changed the whole perception of what tag team competition was.
Right. And no, especially because we talked about our Ric Flair coming into the WWF episode a few weeks ago, where we were saying like, oh, well, Hogan needs new opponents. So here's a new main eventer for him to wrestle. Mm-hmm. If you think about tag teams over the past 50 years, there's only maybe like 3 that didn't actually end up in the WWE for whatever reasons. One of them off the top of my head is the Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express as well. Yep. But Legion of Doom coming in, that's like you brought it up, bringing a main eventer right off the bat, put them right into the fix of things and see what happens. And it all worked out, at least for, as a fan looking at it, because you brought in a main event tag team that can fight anybody because they're big, they can throw around small guys, and they can beat up big guys too. Yeah.
And if anybody, thought that, what these guys did out there was a dance, all you had to do is see the Legion of Doom step into a ring and see what they did to people. And I recently listened to the episode that I did with Joe Laurinaitis with Road Warrior Animal. And, I cracked up listening to him saying, we never hurt anybody. And I'm like, what do you mean you never hurt anybody? Because, well, we didn't, no one was maimed, or we didn't break any necks or bones. But he agreed that anybody that stepped into the ring with them felt it, not the next day, as soon as they were out of that ring. It wasn't something like it had to set in. And all you had to do was look at, the finishing moves that they did, the finishing move coming off that top rope and the turnbuckle.
Doomsday device.
Yes. To think that, no, that's, so if there was any question about, what was going on in there, and he also talked about how when the guys they'd go to these arenas and people would see on the card that they were going to go up against the Road Warriors. They're like, oh my God. They even had ones that they just disappeared from the arena that just would not step into the ring with them because of the reputation. And they loved it. But, and he says, when we went in there and he would tell the guys, whatever you do here, you lay it in. You lay it in. Because if you don't lay it in, we ain't selling it. So, it was stiff. But they were professionals. They knew what the heck they were doing in there. And that's why they had just some phenomenal matches and were so damn successful. They blew the roof off arenas everywhere they went.
If you watch any superstars or wrestling challenges from the time they were in the WWF, they beat down those poor enhancement talents.
Oh, God.
There's no, where you lay it in, we'll lay it in. It's like, no, we are going to slam your face down as hard as we want to, and you will take it because you're nobody and we're Legion of Doom and we're going to do that to you. And again, that was their style. That was how they worked. That's how a lot of workers were. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm saying that is how it was. And the fact that you're saying too is like, hit me as hard. Like, in my brain, and I'm not a wrestler and I never was, isn't it supposed to look like it hurts? Yeah. It's not supposed to hurt. Yeah. Isn't that the whole fantasy of it all?
Yeah, but I always thought it was amusing. They say wrestling's like butter, like it's supposed to be smooth. And I'm sorry, you can think that, and guys are certainly so good and so great and so athletic in there that they were tremendous at pulling off these moves. But I'm sorry, anytime you get a chance to be in a ring, step in there and do the, throw yourself on your back. Just do that. And see what it feels like if after you get your breath back, that it comes with a price no matter what you do. But there was always absolutely something extra if you're going to go up against the Road Warriors, Legion of Doom. And you'd say, okay, they go up against an enhancement talent. They called them jobbers back then. There was no malice in there. There wasn't with these guys of thinking, well, they're just, these are nobodies. We can beat the living crap out of them. Mm-hmm. That's not the way they were, but they understood they had to do that because that's what Legion of Doom did. Yeah. So you can't sit there and let up on, just because a guy obviously isn't to your level of talent. You have to show everybody how ferocious you are every time you step into the ring. You dare come into beyond those ropes there, you're going to take a beating. And that's the way it was. No, and it didn't matter who you were. And they did the other tag teams.
Right. I can only imagine the only people they ever had a problem with that would actually come back was Earthquake and Typhoon. Like, you're gonna hit me hard? I will sit on you, sir. Yeah. I will crush you. I will crush you good. Though there's one story I'd love to know about, and if it's true or not, let me know. There's a story out there that Legion of Doom was at a party with Vince and the WWF superstars, and they picked up Vince McMahon and the Doomsday device, and they gave it to him. Yeah. Can you confirm if that happened? That happened in a bar?
Yeah. And it was I can't remember. It was after one of the events, and everybody ended up at this bar, and Vince came, and he was, the size of him. Vince was very dedicated to working out and everything, and the story goes, he always wanted to get into the ring. His father wouldn't allow it. We wouldn't allow him to do it. He didn't think it was, him crossing over could ever make, keep him being in the position that he was in or whatever. So a few bunch of cocktails were flowing apparently that night, and they got the opportunity, and Vince was being a sport apparently, and they were not going to miss that chance to do that.
Wow. On a
wasn't
bar
there.
Floor.
I was not there, but I remember hearing about it. Yeah.
That's got to hurt because you're.
I'm sure they took it. They probably laid that one in.
Right. Like, oh, sorry, I slipped. Whoops.
Yeah. Oops.
Did I punch you in the face? I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Thought we were
I'll
just
see you
messing
tomorrow.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, don't be a baby about it, Vince. Come on, stop crying. Wipe those
No,
tears away.
from what I hear, Vince took it very well. There was no repercussions.
No.
Or may have been some concussions, but no repercussions for those guys. But
I think that puppet was but
they loved it. They loved that they were able to do that.
Of course, yes. It's amazing to think that story is real. And Legion of Doom does come into the WWF June of 1990, and at the time you have Demolition and the Hart Foundation fighting for the championship. And at SummerSlam, Legion of Doom gets involved in that matchup. That really sets us off between Legion of Doom and Demolition. And that is one of the biggest topics I think in wrestling fans have debated for years. Was Demolition a ripoff of the Road Warriors? Or, because I asked Warlord this, Powers of Pain, Warlord and Barbarian also had similar looks, and they were babyface. But Demolition could have been devised over heavy metal being a very popular thing at the time, and leather and wearing, like weird gimp masks and things like that was a metal thing. So the question to you is, did you ever have a conversation with anyone to actually confirm that Demolition was created to, fight the Legion of Doom, kind of take away their audience?
Well, I don't know if they were created to fight the Legion of Doom because, they weren't
fight them, more like created to be their own version.
Yes.
Of Legion of Doom.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I think that, when previous negotiations didn't pan out and Vince realized the success that those two were having and also how, a massive, powerful tag team could be successful. He wanted his own. And I also, I think that the Powers of Pain, when, Demolition didn't reach those heights, wasn't up to the level, I think, that in Vince's eyes of what, the kind of admiration and success that the Road Warriors were having, that I think also the Powers of Pain was another, like a hybrid version to see, okay, would that work? Because, Warlord, oh, Jesus. We had massive people in the WWE, but it just as far as a package of just mass of muscle bursting, that was, definitely Warlord. He was, just raging. And we don't have to probably get any deeper into how that happened and what was, and how we did it. But man,
working out.
He was, a lot of time in the gym, and some other help. But anyway, that was definitely I thought another hybrid of it.
Okay.
Of the Road Warriors.
Yeah, Warlord. When I asked him about that, he said he felt like Powers of Pain were more a creation to just be another version of the Road Warriors because they couldn't come into the WWF. But for years upon years, Demolition has been the argument of, oh, no, it was them. But then, like, you go to like I said, I went to a deep dive before on Demolition, and you realize when Demolition makes their debut, it's around the exact time heavy metal and like metal is a popular thing, and everyone's wearing those leather hats and leather chains and leather pants. Like, spikes. It's a big, spikes. Like, it's a big fashion statement. It's a big thing in music. So there's an argument there where, like, well, we don't know, because maybe Demolition just was like, well, we need something. We can't be wearing shoulder pads with spikes on them. So we have to create our own version of that, which was the masks and the weird, glitter on their body and leather all over them. Chaps.
Well, it was a mosh of all that, where, they take a little here, take a little bit here, take this, that, and then kind of mix it together and see if that's going to work. But the bottom line is it was just all a matter of this, explosive, powerful, ferocious tag teams that we had. And so when we finally made that happen, I think that people really were, expecting to have this tremendous run between these two tag teams. And there's another debate that is still going to this day is, what happened? Why didn't it explode? Why wasn't it as successful as you might have thought it would be? And there was a lot going on. It wasn't just, okay, was the timing off? There was other things going on too.
Yeah. We have Axe's health issues there. You include eventually Crush into the system so he can take over Crush Axe's matches, I guess. He's going to
Which they could never really make that work at all. And not just with with that run, but other things going on. And, Crush was a very capable worker. He was a good hand, as they say, and had a great look. Could do some, decent promos with some coaching and, help. And, how much did you really have to do with that? I honestly, I was a little surprised that they weren't able to do it, but I think because once Demolition was established, because, in the beginning of Demolition, they had another guy in there that, didn't work because because they thought that he was too well known already. So that's how Barry Darsow came into it. And then it clicked with those two. And then they became a very well-established tag team. But as you mentioned with Bill Eadie's health issues and the timing of all that, and them trying to bring in Crush, and it just never worked. And you can't, I can't really break it down and say why they weren't be able to make that transition to bring somebody else in, because, Bill was still involved with the team, and but it just didn't happen. But I think a lot of it was timing, and then also you have to consider what was going on with the Road Warriors or with the Legion of Doom. What I mean? Yeah. But you know what I mean? With that, there was other stuff going on with them, and Joe talks about when that deal was made, and a lot of the time why they didn't get there before is because they were making a ton of money. They were making a boatload of money down south, and so
in Japan together at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. They were making a lot of money, and when they came over with the Handshake, that's kind of pretty much the way they did things back then. There was no guaranteed money, but they were supposed to make more. Vince, had them believe that they were going to make more money. And Joe talks about, well, that first year they made $100,000 less than they were making that year before. And then the year after they made another $100,000 less. So along that run, that was always eating at them too, because they're saying, what the hell? We were making a ton of money before, and we're not making it the same amount of money, and we were supposed to make more. So that was another element. And then you had, Mike's Hawk's issues that were always in the background there that were really starting to brew.
I'm surprised that they didn't make as much money, because you see a lot of shots of children with foam shoulder pads on and face paint. And that was the thing too. If you went to the store, you actually could buy like a WWF face paint kit, like a picture of Warrior, a picture of Legion of Doom and on it. And so you could buy that. And so I'm surprised, but also, I'm not, because that was the deal. You work more dates. So you're hoping when you do enough dates, you make enough money. But obviously Japan and, NWA are paying you in full up front for appearances, versus
pretty much guaranteed.
You make commission pretty much in the WWF at the time. Like, you're going to go to towns, the town does well, you make money. If it doesn't do well, you don't make a lot of money. So that's how it was. Business obviously was run in the WWF, and that's why Vince McMahon made an empire, because that's how independent contractors worked for him, and still work this today. But when my thing with the Demolition Legion of Doom storyline was, as a fan, I loved it. I had no problems with it.
No, a lot of people did,
because it was just like, whoa, two giant tag teams fighting each other. They both have similar looks. Who's more dominant? And that to me was great. Like, I had no problems. Like, Demolition had an amazing run for about 20 something years. They held the longest reigning tag team championship run in history until the New Day did that. And then the Usos beat that a few years later after that. So the top three longest reigning tag team champions of all time are Usos, New Day, which are the past 10, 15 years. And then you have Demolition 30 something years ago. Like, to me, that is a tip of the cap to them, because they were great. Now at the time, they went from heel to babyface. Now, abruptly, they just turned heel. No reason even told. No reason even happened. It's just, hey, we're bad guys again. And it was your job in the event center or Mean Gene's job to just abruptly tell you breaking news about these things. And as a fan, you're like, wait, I just watched you last week. You were slapping hands and cheering people, and now you're a bad guy. And I wonder if that pissed off Demolition too, because, hey, Demolition, we're going to bring in Legion of Doom finally. Oh, by the way, you're turning heel so we can have you guys feud finally. Well, that means no little kids buying Demolition shirts, because that's how it worked. You cheer for your superheroes, you boo the bad guys. Did you ever talk to Demolition about that? Because it seems like you turn heel, you're not making as much money.
Yeah, there's another episode I think we've talked about too on Primetime with Sean Mooney, where I had both Axe and Smash. They were in a car going to an event in upstate New York. And for the 2-hour ride, I have them talking to me about all of this. It's a great listen. And they do really get into their feeling at the time. When turning heel, you know, if you've talked to many professional wrestlers, they love to be heels. Yeah. And and to them, it wasn't a matter of being a babyface or heels. You can debate all the time too. I mean, the Legion of Doom, they were never billed as a heel or a baby. They were the Legion of Doom. They were these, you know, guys that you can love us or hate us. We don't give a damn, which made you love them. Demolition had always been able to have that babyface angle to them, but I think that they welcomed this shake up, you know, this to do it, and I think that they were hoping. Yeah, I think that they were. Heat is the great incomer. It's the one that makes you money. You got the heat coming, so that they were, you know, they knew that was going to be a big run. I mean, and as I mentioned, you know, tag teams were huge then, so they were looking at it as a big payday, and it was just going to catapult them into the stratosphere of all-time great tag teams, which in any discussion today, they're right there at the top. So in a sense, I think both teams. But Steve, I think you have to look back to and we mentioned timing. Now we're talking when they came in, it was 1990. So that's, you know, the business was not great. It was starting to, it was one of those dips that we have, you know, the wrestling business is cyclical. There was all other things going on with the rumblings about steroids and all these other things happening. So that was part of it. There wasn't, the house gates were down. So maybe it wouldn't have made any difference who you had that were, at the top of those cards. And so I can't necessarily fault, that Vince McMahon didn't mislead these guys. He was hoping that it was going to help boost the business. So when you're not, they're basing their income on gates. It wasn't as though they signed a contract and said, we're going to pay each of you $500,000 for, this year or whatever it was going to be. It was all on, okay, we have a great house. You're going to earn that. This is your percentage. And based on what we've done over the last 2, 3, 4 years, this is what you can expect. And I think you're going to be an even bigger draw. So that's why I'm telling you, I think you're going to make even more. So it's a matter of timing too, with all of that was going on.
True. Because anyone can tell you, like, I think you got some potential, kid. I think you're going to be a superstar. And then you don't. And he's like, well, he told me I was going to be a superstar. It's like, well, right. No. He told you might be a superstar, but what you heard was, I'm going to be a superstar. It's weird though too, before we move on between LOD and Demolition, is they never had a pay-per-view match. And that was one of the things I think for years have been like, wait, you finally get this combo together, this debate of are they the same team? You get them. They don't fight. They only fight in Eliminate Survivor Series, which is we talked about before. My favorite Survivor Series of all time. The most face paint in one match ever. It's Demolition. All three of them with Mr. Perfect taking on Ultimate Warrior, Legion of Doom, face paint, and Texas Tornado. You have the world title and the Intercontinental title and the tag team titles. Tag team titles are different. All these singles championships are in the same match. I love that match. That's the only time they fight on pay-per-view. Before that, your house show circuits, obviously, that's how you made your money. That was how business was done. but also they fought on NBC Saturday Night's Main Event, but not in a tag team match. But if you watch Coliseum videos, those tag team matches are actually on those Coliseum videos. So it's like, it really depends on what area of the WWF are you looking at? Are you just comparing it on pay-per-views? Why wasn't this on a pay-per-view? I guess that's the argument I've heard for years, but still, it didn't happen, and that's fine. But you're right. Business is moving down. So it's just like, hey, you wear these awesome shoulder pads, you have face paint. We're all about superhero type, gimmicks here. We're very big. We're very powerful. So let's bring them in. Obviously, they attracted an audience, but then you move into 1991, though. And this is always my favorite thing. And maybe you have a thought about this, too. The Royal Rumble is in 91 and Legion of Doom are both in it. My thought is always, does anyone actually believe a tag team who enters a Royal Rumble is one of them's actually going to win that Royal Rumble? In the history, I don't think Royal Rumbles that's ever happened. Obviously, this is different timing. In 91, they didn't do that type of thing. Yeah. But it's one of those funny, it's one of my observations of a wrestling fan for over 30 years being like, why is there a tag team in this? No one's going to win. No one believes you're going to win, but they do eliminate Undertaker, which I think is one of the best moments in that Rumble because that's the first time, I think only time Legion of Doom fought Undertaker in any situation.
Yeah. Well, and if you're going to do that, you're going to put a tag team in there. The only reason you're going to do that is if you're going to split them and there's going to be a new storyline, where one of them accidentally gets the other one out and they're like, dude, what the hell was that? We're supposed to be working together. Right. So yeah, that's certainly when you see that happen, you're like, what's going on here? But that's
always my fun.
They're going to go. They're going out. So
right,
that's adding logic. Standing, right?
Yeah, it's always funny to be like, I'm sorry, you're not winning. I hope you know that. I know that's one of my pet peeves. Obviously, in 91, it's completely different. Though, we have WrestleMania season, WrestleMania 7, and you think, oh, we got Legion of Doom here. That's going to be the first WrestleMania. Like, we should do something huge, something big. They beat Power and Glory in 59 seconds.
Yeah.
Was that just to get a WrestleMania payday?
I wish I had the answers for that one because that is, and especially on a stage like that, like why would you even do that? Just to put them out there? And yeah, so there's no real explanation. I'd love to have had a conversation with Pat Patterson and them and what they were thinking, but it didn't make much sense, did it?
No, WrestleMania 7 didn't make much sense. No. So
yeah, that's true.
That whole situation there, but you can tell the wheels are falling off a little bit, but they're going to try to keep pushing forward with the Legion of Doom. But the Hart Foundation loses the tag team titles to the Nasty Boys at the same WrestleMania. So then the Nasty Boys then just drop the championships to Legion of Doom at SummerSlam 1991 and Madison Square Garden. Great event, up and down the card, awesome matches. Do you ever feel like it was never, it wasn't a smart decision when you could have had the Hart Foundation drop to the Legion of Doom, or since they had plans for Bret to eventually become the Intercontinental Champion at the next pay-per-view, they're like, well, we can't have a babyface versus babyfaces here. We got to get Bret away from the anvil, and we got to get the tag team titles on a heel team, so then they can just drop them to Legion of Doom at some point in the future.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. As far as I think that would have been a great way to do it, and I don't think it would have hurt Bret at all. That might have given him a reason to if they would have dropped the belts to the Legion of Doom and then for him to go to singles competition, that would have been, so, and I think it would have been a tremendous match. I really do, because, Bret was one of those people that he could be in the ring with anybody. And what would have intrigued me so much is the fact, like, how, I would still be thinking that they could win that match, even against these two monsters that destroyed people, because he's so good and he's going to beat them with his, he's going to outsmart them. He's going to out finesse them. He's going to find a way. And so that to me I thought that would have been an awesome match. Absolutely.
Yeah. And again, it's quite obviously like, oh, okay, this is the time of no baby faces are going to fight baby faces, except for that one exception at WrestleMania 6, and heels don't fight heels because who are you going to cheer for? So like, I get it, But I got to feel bad for Brian Knobbs and Jerry Sags. Like, hey, you win the tag team titles. Like, yeah. But you're just going to lose them in like 2 months. It's just a reason to, the term paper champion is just there for them to eventually lose to the Legion of Doom. And so what were you thinking about Legion of Doom at this time while in the company? Were you observing going, yeah, the tag team champions, like this is a good idea? Or were you thinking to yourself, like, I know there's more to these men. There's more personal demons happening here than maybe we should be pulling back, not pushing forward?
Yeah, it was, that's the thing about it. When it was unfortunate that this was going on behind the scenes, and you could see the difference between the two personalities. Joe and Mike had known each other since their days back in Minneapolis, working at Grandma B's as bouncers. So they were true brothers. But in a sense, that Joe was always, he was always very family oriented. He was the guy that was, every second he got back home so he could coach his kids, and, was just more grounded. And you could just see the difference in how they, like they'd come into the interview room, and Mike would be, not under the influence in my viewpoint, and just looked more beat up, more tired, more, not as focused. And so that's, that's where you start seeing the cracks. And that's what's a shame about it. And Joe had mentioned it many times, that, you're dependent on that other person. That's when you're in a tag team. It's like anything else. Is people can talk about when they're in a band and let's say you got 4 members. Well, if one of them isn't playing up to their peak, well, it drags you down too. In a tag team, you're completely dependent. If that other guy doesn't show up, it literally, even if he's there physically, but it drags you down. And Joe was tremendously loyal to Mike. They were, like I said, they were like brothers. But at the same time, it started to when if you miss dates or anything like that, it is literally taking money off your table, out of your kids' mouths. And so that's when it, you could see it start to happen. And then, of course, we know what happened in the summer of '92. And it's a tragedy, because in a sense you think of where they really could have gone, what might have happened, the heights they could have reached if they were as focused together in accomplishing what they wanted to do in professional wrestling.
Do you think that like them coming in could have, say, 4 years before this would have been a completely different situation? Because now they've had their peak. They already did like everything they possibly could in other companies. So they're obviously very high caliber talent. They know how important they are to any organization. So now they're coming, not all of them, but clearly there's a situation where someone's coming in, half thinking about what they're supposed to be doing for work. The other half is thinking, well, I want to go do something else somewhere else. So like when you come into a situation, are you noticing that like maybe if we got them a few years ago when they were completely 100% focused versus half focused, that we would have had a different situation here? Because putting the tag team titles on them clearly feels like a Band-Aid situation. Like just give them the tag team titles. Let's see if this makes them motivated and helps them out.
Yeah. And you could say, well, maybe 4 years earlier, it would have made a difference in it. But as far as where they could have, they weren't old. They weren't, they were in their, as far as physical peak condition and all that, and that's just that's the shame of it. It's the demons that Mike was dealing with that started to drag them down. But I think about if they would have been at that level, and what I'm trying to say, it wasn't because 4 years down the road they weren't as good, or they weren't as or could not have been as good. They could have been even better. It could have been 4 years of just great ascension. And just really just gone and accomplish all these tremendous things in the WWE, but it was those demons that dragged Mike down, and Mike and Joe came along with it, and that's the shame of it all, because it could have been so great.
Yeah. Agreed. And what's even more strange as a wrestling fan watching the programming of Legion of Doom is out of nowhere, we're told in an event center or Mean Gene Okerlund situation that the Legion of Doom have lost the tag team titles to the Natural Disasters.
Yeah.
Money Incorporated at like a house show.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
Well, now the question,
and then whenever
for you,
stuff like that would happen, though, you know, when it would happen at a house, you're like, what? You know, that's in the forest. Nobody got to see the tree fall, basically, you know, except there's no cameras there. We aren't necessary. They didn't shoot that stuff. So yeah, when something like that happened, you knew there was something was going on.
Yeah, but that's the thing too, is as you see this happening and suddenly you're told, oh, Legion of Doom just lost the tag team titles and it's not going to be on TV. So now you're in the event center. You have to do all these new ins and outs. You have to talk about it because we've talked about it before. Your job in the event center is to pretty much promote the house shows coming up. You get to wait to see the tag team champions, Legion of Doom, take on Money Inc. or Natural Disasters, whoever. And now they are no longer the tag team champions. And they're pretty much going to be invisible from the company for a long time. What are your thoughts when you're being told this? Are you saying like, oh, well, the wheels finally fell off, or like what's happening? Can we fix this?
Well, I can't speak on behalf of what the booking behind it was, but sometimes they might do that and then, you know, publicize it to make it seem, this stuff happens, when it's also part of that promotion of people when they go to a house show. If it's not a TV taping, people think nothing big's going to happen. You know what I mean? So I think that the fact that say, no, folks, unbelievable that, this was at a show that wasn't televised and wherever it was. It was a sanctioned, title bout. And so people would think, if I go there, something could happen. It could be a big deal that no one else is going to get a chance to see. And then we would make a big deal out of it as far as in the event center, or, Gene would do a special report or something like that. It brought a sense of reality to it. But at the same time, you also knew it was this kind of a fail-safe in a sense. If something was going on behind the scenes, that you could fix it somewhere that wasn't necessarily at a TV taping, where you would have it documented with all of our cameras. So, that's kind of the way they did things back then.
To me, that's 92 does this a couple times. Tag team titles, Legion of Doom lose to Money Inc. in a house show, so you don't see it happen. And then it happens later on. Ric Flair loses to Bret the Hitman Hart, the world title, at another house show later in the year. Like, I'm wondering, why is there this keeps happening? Is it because business is down? So to convince you to come to house shows more often is, hey, you should come because the tag team titles just changed hands. You might be there that Saturday if you want to see that happen to you too. It's like, but to me as a fan, you're like, well, I'm buying your pay-per-views.
Right.
I'm watching your weekly shows. I don't know. As a fan, maybe you expect something to be on those shows, not to just be told one day by Mean Gene or you that Legion of Doom lost to Money Inc. at a random event in February 7th, 92 in Denver, Colorado. So to me, it's like, what are we doing here? But in a way, I get it. Like, you want Legion of Doom off your TV because there's clearly some business issues and personal issues happening backstage.
Yeah, and like I said, it was a way that you could, everything was always make it a win. As far as Vince was concerned, no matter what happens, we're going to make it work. We're going to put it in a positive light and make it work for us. And so there were situations where you could do that. Like as I explained, you could do it, and people would know. Well, if I go to a house show, you never know. The title could be on the line, or somebody could, something could happen that has an impact in the WWE. So at the same time, if there was, something going on, as I said, that somehow the guy wasn't performing to peak, or something was happening with that person and they got in trouble, you could fix it that way. And that's what may have been going on. Like I said, I wasn't part of the booking staff there. I don't know how they handled the situation. All I knew is that there was things going on behind the scenes with Legion of Doom.
Right. In the 92 Royal Rumble, Legion of Doom defend their tag team titles against the Natural Disasters. It's not a very good match. And the rumor is Vince McMahon was seeing that they had no chemistry whatsoever on television. So then he pivoted to let's form Money Inc. Because they weren't even a tag team, by the way. And that's what's really weird is like these two singles wrestlers are out of nowhere tag teams and they out of nowhere they win the tag team titles and it's not on TV. Like there's a lot of like boom, boom, boom. What are we doing? And so Legion of Doom pivot, obviously Money Inc. wins, Natural Disasters become baby faces. So then that storyline happens between those two tag teams. Legion of Doom is off television. The last time technically I guess we saw them on a pay-per-view was Rumble. They've been not on TV for a long time. They show up at WrestleMania 8 with Paul Ellering. They have a little interview out there on the stage, but no one knew who Paul Ellering was.
No.
They didn't introduce
They didn't
him.
know the history. Yeah.
They didn't know the history. Nothing. They saw a man slapping a newspaper in his hands wearing sunglasses indoors. And guess what? I knew who he was. Some people did, but a lot of people didn't. Just like the Ric Flair episode we talked about. Was that a mistake just to bring a man in? You have Legion of Doom, and now this I'm not gonna insult him at all, but like this man right here is now telling these two animals, Animal and Hawk, Legion of Doom, to listen to him, and they'll go on to promise to become champions again. Like to me, it's a very strange situation.
Well, but Steve, they did that all the time, where they would introduce somebody as their manager.
A babyface team, though.
Well, you could do it whenever they needed it. You know, there's other examples that where they did bring people in, but it was you could always explain it in a storyline, and if they did have history with Ellering, they just had to explain it, that he had been advisor to them or a manager, whatever they wanted to call it at the time, prior, and that he was there to help guide them through the difficulties or whatever they were facing at the time. That he was there. So that to me wasn't that unusual.
Okay.
They were used to being, like I said, you didn't label them as a babyface or a heel team ever. I mean, they were just the Road Warriors. Their perception was, people think that it wasn't really till the Attitude Era where the person could, blur the lines of who was a babyface and heel, and they loved you anyway. No, this happened before. There were other situations, in the Road Warriors, the Legion of Doom were certainly an example of that. So, but the underlying situation here is that the engine was starting to leak some oil. There were some big cracks, and they were trying to fill them, put them with the fingers in the dike there to keep it going. But it really ended up blowing up at SummerSlam 92.
Yeah, there's a video package put together before that event where Legion of Doom is in Chicago, where they're from, and they're looking over rubble, and there's broken glass, and there's bricks everywhere from the home that apparently they grew up in, was raised in, and in the rubble there is a puppet.
Oh God, yeah.
Named Rocco. And
yeah.
Apparently that puppet was their friend and helped them through tough times as children in the rough streets of Chicago. So now you have Paul Ellering and a puppet named Rocco being the manager of the Legion of Doom. Now, from your expression, I can tell you loved Rocco.
I was just showing the expression of both Hawk and Animal.
Yeah,
when they were told we're going to go in this direction, and
can you imagine that being pitched? This shit, like, hey man, I know it didn't work out last year, the year before, but you know what we should do? Give you a puppet.
Oh, imagine, and this is, you're pitching this to the most ferocious tag team in the history of professional wrestling, that we're going to have a ventriloquist dummy be part of your gimmick.
Like Ric Flair and Spartacus.
They hated it from the second that it was mentioned to them. They hated that whole idea. And I said, well, what was like Ellering? And he said, well, he was kind of into it because he was doing that as like, a hobby. Him on the side, like, it was like,
you would see Paul Ellering doing the voices.
Yeah, just it was like a hobby. He was kind of into it, but it didn't belong near a wrestling ring anywhere. The vision I have of that is when you remember when they at Wembley when they rode out to the ring on the Harleys, and Rocco's on the handlebars, and it's just like what the hell? How do you take this seriously? It's almost as if was Vince goofing on them? Was it just to give them a message like I could make you do anything I want? If I don't know. I don't know if because if Ellering pushed it. But I do know that that Joe and Mike hated it. They hated everything about it. And then and think about everything else that's going on now. They're not happy with the financial situation, and they feel that they're misled. They were misled, and like I said, they knew what they were getting into. Business, we knew where business was. Like, so you necessarily fault Vince McMahon? No, I mean they knew going in that there was nothing guaranteed. But he was just telling them, you're going to make more money. I believe you're going to make more money. Whatever it was, they were not happy then. And then you had all this stuff going on with Mike. And so, Joe's trying to support everything and keep it propped up. And he can't depend on Mike. He doesn't know when, if he's missing dates and you're a tag team. You can't just keep going in when you go to show up to a house and then he's not there and they've got a match and we've got, and tonight, Road Warrior Animal, the Legion of Doom is going to be teamed up with, somebody else that was in back. You can't do that. And especially on a regular basis. So the machine is chugging out to the ring.
Dude, it's still to this day. Okay, now I'm going to totally age myself. As a child watching this, I didn't have a problem with it. Didn't care about it. Didn't think it was bad. As an adult,
didn't think the dummy was a little much?
No, I was a certain age, so I was like, whatever. These guys are still painted up. They're still wearing spikes. They're riding on motorcycles. This is pretty badass. I was young enough to realize that this wasn't. I didn't care. Like I didn't. When people tell me what bad eras they watched, I go, I watched them all. So don't tell me that what you're watching now is worse than whatever. Like I watched the best and the worst of wrestling since forever. So I didn't care as a child. Didn't mind it. As an adult, you look at it, and this is like one of those top 10 lists of the worst situations you could put a tag team or any wrestler in. Up there with, making Chavo Guerrero Kerwin White, pretty much denouncing his heritage. Like, that's pretty rough. So this is one of those moments where you're like, okay, so SummerSlam, we're going to get a tag team championship match. They're going to try to get their championships back. SummerSlam 92, Wembley Stadium. It's amazing. The visuals, the beginning of it, the pop, the pageantry of this event. The motorcycles are a really nice touch because it's a long ramp, so it lets that happen. Then you have Paul Ellering on the side. LOD. Never forget that visual. It's just you tell him he hit a blast, so he apparently enjoyed himself. But what happens?
He sold it. That's for sure.
Dude, what's he supposed to do? Smack out a newspaper forever, or do a little puppet work out there? Lamb Chop Play Along was a big show, so maybe they were trying to hit up that market. I don't know, but after this event, though, is really when it's like, okay, this is not working out. This is completely done. We are done here because there's reports that he's underneath the influence during this show. So he's riding a motorcycle to the ring in front of 80,000 people. Apparently I didn't drug test him, so I have no idea. These are the stories that come out. They already had tensions between Animal and Hawk building to this. They already had issues because if you're missing houses, so you brought up earlier, missing houses, that means there's no money. If there's no money, then I don't get paid because you're being an asshole to me. And so as a tag team, I'm guessing it's like a brotherhood or like siblings where you don't always get along with your sibling.
Well, it's a business, Steve. Bottom line, it's a business.
They're a package deal.
Yes. That was the danger of it all. Is that, if you're a singles competitor, you got nobody to blame but yourself, and you can keep working. You may even get a different gimmick, whatever. They were tied at the hip. As we saw later, Joe, they tried to work him with some singles competition stuff. It just didn't work. He was a tag team wrestler. I mean, really, and especially because that's what he was known for. Maybe it was if he had come up a different way, and had not had that reputation with this other guy, it may have been different. But they needed each other to be successful, and it blows up at Wembley. Who knows what the situation was Mike under the influence or whatever? But it just, when it was over, he disappeared. They're supposed to be back in the States the following week there to do television, and he's MIA. Nobody knows where he is. There's all these rumors that he was out riding motorcycles in England still with the Hells Angels or something, like all these wild rumors that, like, where was he? And left Joe hanging, really. Joe didn't even know where he was. Joe talks about, he said at that TV or at that event, Joe's there and he's just waiting to see if Mike is going to show up, and he didn't.
Wow. Yeah. There's many stories about the Hells Angels after SummerSlam 92 of where he went to and how he didn't answer phone calls. People were calling him. People didn't know where he was. They thought he might have been dead. Like, they were checking up on him, because if you suddenly disappear, because you've been, you show up randomly, you miss a few shows, okay, whatever. But no one's contacting you. Like, no one can even your tag team partner can't contact you. And I think Bruce Pritchard has said it multiple times. Like, they sent someone to his house. Like, they called him all day long. Like, they did everything they could to figure out where he was, and he wasn't at home. So that Hell's Angels story might check, but who knows? But he eventually just quits the WWF. Hawk, that is, and Animal's blindsided by all this, because, again, we're a team. We are a package deal. We are like a band. Without one of us, we're not the same. And again, who are you paying to see? Now, I'm not disparaging anybody, but when you're paying to see Legion of Doom, or are you paying to see Road Warrior Animal?
Right.
I'm nothing against Animal. I love them, but there is a difference between what you're paying for. Like, when the musician leaves the band and goes off and does their own, you're like, I don't really want to see you by yourself. Who are you with? It's like, I want to see the whole package, like, put you all together. So it's unfortunate to see what happened in this run here, because substance abuse, too many days on the road, possibly pressure of being what you once were might have hit him hard. I don't know. But to me, Legion of Doom, even if this run we just talked about, up and down, left and right, still one of the greatest tag teams in the WWF of all time, even after this run that didn't go so smooth.
Yeah. And, Joe talks about that Mike turned up in Japan and got in contact with him and said, hey, man, come on, you got to come over here. It's going to be great. And Joe's like, what are you talking about? We have dates guaranteed and secured with the WWE. You can't just walk away. Well, he did. And the WWE, appreciating Joe's loyalty and the kind of worker he was, and always doing and answering the call, whatever they needed, they wanted him to be with them, and they tried to have him work in singles competition, and they hooked him up with other people to try tag team stuff, and it just didn't work. And it was, when you spend all that time, I mean, more than a decade as a tag team, one of the greatest well-known tag teams, not just in the United States, but around the world, it's tough to go off and just be, as you mentioned, just be Road Warrior Animal.
Right. We've been accustomed to see you with somebody else. So now we don't see that. So you're like, oh, I like you. I do like you, but where's the other guy? Because I like you guys better together than not together.
Right.
They did try to put Animal with a few other people. And it was funny is because one of them was Crush, who was in Demolition.
Oh, they tried so hard. No, they tried so hard with him. And really, he's just another example of those guys why didn't that work? I mean, he had the look, but it just didn't. And they tried, and the same thing as they tried with Joe, and it just didn't work.
I did like Crush's Hawaiian gimmick though. Was it listen, brother, and he would just crush your head like a coconut. Yeah. But when you got to the ring and you had to wrestle someone, I was like, oh, right, we're good here. But his character, I loved. Everything else, once the bell rings, I was good. Though they eventually, Legion of Doom, obviously it's over in the WWF until 1997 when they just randomly come back into the WWF. And at first you're like a nostalgia act. You're so happy to see them. You're, oh my God, they're teaming up with Ahmed Johnson at WrestleMania 13, the Chicago street fights, badass. Everyone's wearing the shoulder pads. It's so cool. But eventually that falls off too, because more issues occur. And so what do? We got to repackage them. Who are they going to be? LOD 2000. They put him with Sonny for a little while. And then again, more substance abuse issues keep coming up. So they throw in Darren Drozdov to be the third member of Legion of Doom. So when Hawk is having, personal issues, they can have someone else step in. Well, when you take real life situations like alcohol abuse and you throw it on television, and like you said, we talked off camera for having someone drink a fake bottle of liquor, even though they really do have a problem with real liquor, having him fall off the Titantron, pretending he died. Not pretending, he didn't die on TV. Yeah. They pretended he fell because he was drunk. That to me is levels and levels of what the hell are we doing here? I get it. You don't know what to do with them, but don't do this is my thought.
Yeah. And we've talked before about that, that whole thing with reality and work,
right?
And how a lot of times it's great for a storyline because it's so close. When we talk, like with Randy and Liz and that whole situation with the Mega Powers, but this one was, and I'm sure maybe thinking back there, they would agree that that wasn't the greatest idea. But at the time, you're trying to get these guys over, or you're trying to make it work. But I know Joe talked about how he hated, God, did he hate that angle? He knew it was just not a good thing. Like we said, like, why would you put that person into a situation? And of course it's a work, whatever, like we said, but, and also publicly putting that out there. And people may have known a little bit about it, but then at the same time, then you're making a storyline out of it. Yeah, it was not good. It was not good. Bad.
No, it was, and again, during that run, they did win the tag team titles once. And unfortunately, during an incident in 97, they do the Doomsday device to Henry Godwinn. And when they flip him backwards, he lands on the top of his head and he breaks his neck. So he is out for a long time with a broken neck. And that has got to be one of those situations where, like, were we being sloppy? Were we not? It's not sharp ballet, and people get hurt. But at the same time, like, Henry Godwinn's a heavy man.
Yeah.
And he landed on his neck and he broke it. And I wonder, when you talked to Joe about this, maybe you did or didn't, but did he have remorse of, like, oh my God, I broke a man's neck?
Well, anytime something like that happens, of course, they were, hate to see anything like that. And he never, I don't think he really would have ever felt that, we weren't as crisp as we could be, or there was some kind of mess up. I mean, stuff happens out there.
Right.
I always, when people would talk about, oh yeah, it's choreographed and it's all this, like, no, you don't understand. These guys are incredible professionals, what they're doing in the ring. You're talking, eighth of an inch of throwing an elbow or something, and being so attuned to how that, physical bodies interact to be able to do that. So, no one is perfect. There's not going to be, it's not an exact science. The things happen. Otherwise they wouldn't get hurt when to the severity that they are at times. Yeah. And so when, stuff is going to happen, but with everything else surrounding it, of course, people are like going, well, was maybe, there was some kind of influence on that. They weren't being as good as they could have been because other things were affecting their bodies. Yeah, that's certainly going to be out there, but I don't think that we'll ever know. Right. Like I said, things do happen. People have been hurt in the ring all the time, and that's part of the business. But that's what takes place, and I know that they absolutely felt horrible about that. Joe that said that when anybody gets hurt in the ring.
Oh yeah. No, it was one of those situations of like, oh no, like what happened here?
Yeah.
And then like the disrespect to Legion of Doom eventually in the WWF is like you bring up the alcohol situations, the New Age Outlaws become a tag team and they actually like shave off Hawk and Animals and Mohawk and they take their pads. I get it's a storyline, but Legion of Doom like never got their win back on the New Age Outlaws. After that, they have a storyline. They bring back Paul Ellering again. And then he turns on them instantly and joins up with this biker gang, the Disciples of Apocalypse. Like there's a lot of, we don't know what to do. We have them back here, but we have lost any direction of what we're going to do with them. Eventually, when they do leave the company, Animal goes to WCW by himself years later and becomes a single star for a while. Hawk and Animal did have a little WCW run for a brief moment here and there, but nothing to the impact that they had before before 1990 when they left NWA and WCW then. So in reality, though, this run still people bring up as they love Legion of Doom. They didn't care that whatever happened, the puppets and the Demolition storyline. There was no contention. Like if anyone takes anything from this podcast, it's not that I'm upset with their run. It's I wish it was better.
Yes, that is a really good point. And I was just going to say that I'm saying the latter stuff. Yeah, it's a shame the way all that went. But I felt like the first time when they first came to the WWE, it was tremendously exciting. I'm so glad that it happened. And I think that they did accomplish a lot while they were there, and they became part of that incredible era of tag teams there, and they made it better. The shame of it is, God, it could have been even better, and it just shows you the devastation of addiction and how it destroys people because. If that would not have been a part of Mike Hegseth's life, he still may be here. They could have gone on easily for another decade run after that first one with the WWF and just, been with the WWE and been a part of that attitude era of, on top and into the into the 2000s. And it would have been tremendous. But, it's a tragedy. And the story of those two and the way they started as bouncers at a bar, and that is such a rich history too of Barry Darsow was there, Rick Rude was there at this bar, Scott Norton, and a bunch of others. That they were just all these guys that loved professional wrestling and worked out and met at the gym. And became, superstars and forever remembered legends in the world of professional wrestling. And Mike and Joe's relationship was a really special one. That they were truly brothers. And I know that Joe tells the story when he got the call that Mike had passed. He sat down and he was in his backyard and he said I cried like a baby. He loved that guy, and anybody who's ever been involved with someone that they love dearly, who's in the throes of addiction and just can't get out of it, and you lose them, it's something you never get over, and the frustration of how many people tried to help him, and they and I'm sure helping ones that I'm talking about, and you still lose them, and that's the tragedy of it. But we need to remember in this discussion that we have here today that they remain, in my mind, as if not the greatest tag teams, certainly one of the best ever, and and legends in professional wrestling, and just nobody was ever like them to that level, and the intensity and the ferociousness and what they would do. Was astounding. If you saw them live, you never forgot that experience.
Well, their presentation, their promo work, their athleticism, their size. I'll never forget going to a house show as a child, and they I was sitting front row in the Boston Garden. They won a match. And they came up and hugged me and my sister, who's older than me, and they were sweaty as hell, like a big old sweat stain on my.
And you didn't care. You didn't want to wash.
I
your
didn't
face.
care. I was like, I'm down. I'm not washing my face. He's like, you're gonna wash your face. You smell like shit.
And also, Steve, great guys. They had, here there's this big, intense, mean, nasty. They were the nicest guys in the world and funny, just hilarious. The jokes and stuff that they would say. And Mike was just amazing. He was so funny.
It's the golden age of WWE. Larger than life.